Hi everybody, I'm Megan, and welcome back to There I Read It, where I'm going over the Harry Potter books for the first time in my life and then covering them chapter by chapter. And Kaloo Kalay, we have made it all the way to book 3! When I started the series, I honestly was not sure if I'd make it all the way through the first book. This was such an experimental test for me. But look at me and my dyslexia go! Book 3, we're already there! And since I release these videos once a week, I try to give myself a decent buffer to catch up and be ahead. So I started this book on November 15th. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be about March when you guys see it. But this chapter is called Owl Post, and it's about Harry hitting his 13th birthday at the Dursley household. There is not a lot going on in this chapter. It is mostly a bunch of refresher content, so I'll just get into my notes. And again, for anybody just jumping in with book 3, I kind of just write down whatever I think might be important or any details that catch my eye. So I don't know how other people do their notes. It might be way more impressive than mine, but I'm doing it the way I feel works. So Harry is at summer break. He is at the Dursley household, and it actually does not say anything about whether or not Harry's being locked inside his room this time. After he really ticked off Uncle Vernon in Chamber of Secrets, they barred the windows, they bolted him into the room, they would only let him out twice a day to use the bathroom. It was really horrible, and I hope that's not the case now. At least Harry's not mentioning that being the case. And I'm not sure if somebody maybe had a talk with Uncle Vernon or he just had time to calm down over the school year or what happened. But now Hedwig is allowed to come out of her cage at night, and Vernon kind of concedes to allowing that because Hedwig gets so loud when she's cooped up it makes him crazy. But Vernon gives strict orders that Hedwig is not to be doing any mail services. Anyways, Harry is working on his summer homework, which as an American I find that term offensive, but it's an essay on which burning in the 14th century was pointless, discuss. That's the actual quote from the book. So it's not a debate, you're just supposed to take the stance, which burning was pointless and here's why. Although I guess for a school of witches and wizards it would make sense that they wouldn't want to encourage the kids to adopt a pro-burning status. You don't really want to spread that kind of mindset. And Harry talks about having to use a quill and this little jar of ink and how he's terrified to drop even a blotch of it on his bed because then the Dursleys will know that he's doing magic stuff in the house. But I'm just kind of looking at this going, Harry, are you losing your logic too? Because why not just use a pen? I get parchment paper maybe wouldn't work as well with a regular ballpoint pen, but desperate times and all makes sense. And at the end of Chamber of Secrets, Harry gives Ron and Hermione his phone number, and he was like, don't worry, Ron, I've already explained to your dad how a telephone works. But when Ron calls, he has no idea how to use it. Ron's able to make the call and make the connection to the Dursley house, but then he's yelling like this. It just came off so cute. But Ron's call was so badly done that it irritated Vernon to where he denied to let Harry speak on the phone. And the whole situation with the Dursleys not liking magic, it does sound like it's getting a little bit better. They didn't lock all of his stuff up in the under the stairs cupboard this time, but Harry still has to hide his school supplies in his floorboard so that he can work on his homework at night, because the Dursleys do not want any hint of magic or magical writings or textbooks or any of that in their house. And I understand that that is pretty harsh from Harry's perspective, but again, this is their house. They're allowed to live comfortably in it. I mean, I've known people who've housed foreign exchange students and they're like, okay, listen, out of respect to me, you're going to speak English when you're in my house because I think it's rude for you to speak a language I can't understand right in front of me. I don't like it. So I see it from that end that, yeah, it's maybe not the greatest or it's not what Harry would want 100%, but it's their house. They're allowed to feel comfortable in it. They're basically boarding Harry during the summers at this point, whether they like it or not for some reason. Please, no spoilers beyond the current chapter we are on. Not only am I reading this for the first time, but we have a few people who are reading along with me for the first time. So no spoilers, please. Just keep it to the chapter we're on, which is chapter 1 of book 3 and anything prior to that, but nothing past it. And Harry mentions that he is in his 5th week of summer break and he just turned 13 scene when the clock struck midnight. And Harry's already going back into that teenagery, lamenty thing that he loves to do of like, well, the Dursleys ignored my last 2 birthdays. Which, it is kind of curious because the last 2 birthdays have been when Harry was openly magical. And so that implies that prior to that, for the 10 birthdays that they had him, they did acknowledge it. He may not have gotten 30 cakes and 60 presents like Dudley, but he wasn't completely ignored to the extent he was after the Dursleys felt like Harry kind of crossed a line by embracing his magical side. The book also mentions that the Dursleys now flinch at the sight of Harry, which is very concerning. Again, that kind of behavior is almost like a trauma, like a PTSD, and that should not be the kind of reaction you get just from seeing your nephew. So there are some deep-rooted issues with the Dursleys that we're not getting. I don't know why it's so one-sided and we're not hearing more about what is harming them and their psyche and how Harry and the whole magical issue has taken a toll on them, because it's there, but it never gets fully fleshed out and elaborated on. It's also mentioned that Harry is small and skinny for his age, so I just like to point out for the people who got mad at me in the first book so heavily, this is book 3 now, and Harry is still small and skinny. That implies he has a really fast metabolism, because even at Hogwarts he's described as eating 3 and 4 helpings of things. When he's with the Weasleys, he's described as eating a ton of food. So I really don't think that the Dursleys were ever starving Harry before their last bit in book 2. And I feel like the people who assume that are just so quick to hate the Dursleys with or without cause. I mean, at this point, they really have not been awful to Harry. I mean, they haven't been as good to him as Dudley, but Dudley is their son that they wanted. Harry is not their son, and they did not want him, but they tolerate him. So yeah, Harry doesn't get treated as well as Dudley, but it's not like, you know, they were kicking him and starving him to death and trying to physically harm him. I don't know though, but as I've said before, I have been a foster parent. I've seen kids burnt with cigarettes and had horrible things done to them of very adult nature. So Harry saying, well, I didn't get 5th and 6th at dinner, just it doesn't resonate with me. It sounds more like that the Dursleys might be poor, and they're certainly not going to take it out of their kid's mouth. So I mean, that's more of what I get from them at this stage. And maybe I'm wrong. I did like them a lot less after the second book, but again, having physical negative reactions to seeing a person is not normal. So there is a lot more going on with the Dursleys psychologically than the book really wants to own up to. Plus, by all accounts of things that even Harry said, the Dursleys were not all that awful to him before he was made aware that he was a wizard. Harry then sees this weird object flying quickly towards his window, and it turns out to be 3 owls, which was Hedwig, a random owl from Hogwarts, and the 2 of them were actually carrying Ron's owl, Errol. Poor Errol, I'm amazed he's not dead. But Harry says, oh my gosh, these owls must be here for my birthday. This is the first time I'm getting birthday cards. And that is telling in and of itself too, that the Dursleys had never given him a birthday card, but he has said in previous books that he never got a gift that he liked from the Dursleys. So that's a little bit different than never getting a gift at all, especially when Harry took the time to say the Dursleys ignored his last 2 birthdays, not his last, 12 birthdays at this point. So as Harry's aged, his relationship with his aunt and uncle seems to have gotten worse and worse and worse, and of course then Dudley's going to pick up on that and treat Harry worse and worse and worse. But I do also want to take a second to establish the fact that sometimes people just don't give cards. I mean, I spend hundreds on my kids for their birthdays, but they're 16, 13, and 4 now, and I think I've only given them cards once or twice in their life. I know my 4-year-old has never gotten a birthday card from me because I just don't do it. It just seems like such an extra frivolous expense when I'm already buying what they want. It's not like I don't see them on their birthday. If I didn't, maybe I would send a card, but yeah, I'm just not a very card-giving person. And I will agree that the Dursleys are probably well beyond that. They're surely not spending hundreds on Harry every time it's his birthday. But, if you look and see it, there are little glimmers of a more decent life that Harry had before the book started. Anyways, Harry starts opening the packages that are connected to these 3 owls. The first one he opens has a clipping from the Daily Prophet that says Arthur Weasley won 700 galleons in a drawing. I hope I'm saying that right. Galleon? That feels right. And Arthur told the Daily Prophet that he is using that money to go on a summer trip to Egypt to see his, I think, oldest son, Bill. And I was just like, what? How poor brain are you, Arthur? You have an owl that can't function. You have 1,000 things going on with your house. You need that money at home, not on a vacation. But it is very, very true that when you don't have money, and I've spent so much of my life broke that I will certainly attest to it, you tend to have this mentality of easy come, easy go, or even that using credit cards is just a drop in the bucket anyways, so who cares? You know, swipe that card, spend that money you have, get the little bit of pleasure you can out of life. Don't upgrade your house, don't make a savings account, don't make your life better, just have a good time now. So I can see both sides of it, but you would think somebody as old as Arthur Weasley, being a grown adult man, probably close to 50, I don't know, I would just expect him to have better money sense. But even though before we've heard that Bill works in Egypt, we have not heard what he does before, and he is apparently a curse breaker for Gringotts. And then there's a little note from Ron, and he mentions that with the leftover cash, they're gonna buy him a new wand. Yay! And that was something that I felt like the Chamber of Secrets movie really missed, because they show Ron has a broken wand. They show how badly it's working. They show him trying to tape it back together, but they never explain in the movie why he doesn't get a new wand. Oh, and it actually turns out now that Percy is entering his 7th year at Hogwarts, so this is the last book we're gonna see him in school, and he is the head boy now, which I still don't know what that is. I'm assuming that that means he is the top student representative for Gryffindor? I don't know. Is there just one for the school, one for each house? Maybe they'll explain it more in a later chapter. I know some of you will be kind enough to go in the comments and tell me, but I'll probably be like so many chapters ahead by that point that it will either be explained or I will have forgotten completely that the word head boy came up. Anyways, Ron's gift to Harry is a pocket sneakoscope, and it's this little device that will light up and spin if it's around someone who's untrustworthy. And I have a feeling that it's going to go off near Ron for one reason or another by the end of this book. Just call it a hunch. And Hermione sent a gift to Harry as well. Apparently she is in France for the summer and Hedwig just showed up. So Hermione's just like, I guess Hedwig wants to make sure that Harry has birthday presents this year. And she sends Harry a broomstick servicing kit. We don't get a lot of detail for what that is, but I assume other than the polish it mentions that there's going to be, bristle tightening, replacing kind of things. Maybe something to smooth off the splinters, make the broom faster, who knows. And then for some reason that he chooses not to explain, Hagrid sends Harry the Monster Book of Monsters. And that book is very lifelike. It's all very snappy and running away like a scuttling crab. And it just seems like, does Hagrid realize that Harry is still living in the normal world? Because that seems like a very horrible book to give him. But Harry actually has to tackle the book and put a belt around it and cinch it down to keep the book from snapping and running away. So, it seems like a very burdensome present. It's like, here, I got you some saltwater fish in a bag. Better get a tank and supplies before it dies in an hour. Anyways, the last bit of mail Harry gets is from Hogwarts, and it is a letter from McGonagall, who is now listed as the deputy headmistress, so I guess that's like the vice principal. And I kind of wonder, does that mean she's not going to be teaching Transfiguration this year anymore? I'm curious to find out. But the letter says that third years will be allowed to go to Hogsmeade on certain weekends, but they have to get these signed permission slips from their families to be able to go, and Harry's like, oh no, I don't think Vernon or Petunia are gonna sign that. But instead of fixating on it, Harry just decides to, look at the bright side that he has these birthday cards for the first time in his life and go to bed and worry about it later. So Harry is finally growing as a person. He's not laying up all night going, oh poor me, oh I have it so rough, and ignoring the very nice birthday that that he's been given through the mail just for the sake of being angsty and angry with his family that he can't change. But those are all my notes. It was, like I said, a pretty cut and dry chapter that tended to review more of what's already happened rather than give us new information, although I'm sure those gifts are going to come back to be important to the story later. But yeah, I guess I'll call it there. Welcome to book 3, guys. I hope that this video has been interesting. I really wish that I could throw out some kind of discussion topics here, but again, they're not really giving us much to go off of in this chapter. But feel free to comment and leave me what you thought of this chapter. And remember, please, 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 no spoilers for things to come. Keep it contained to this chapter or things previous to this chapter only. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, come back next week. There will be a video every week unless I absolutely cannot keep up. I'm getting a little bit worried. Like, this book is a good bit bigger than the last book, and I know the 4th book is like a Bible, so I'm starting to get a little bit worried about what I'll be able to keep up with, but I'm trying. And on that note, I'm gonna say once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time, Fanily members. Well, Fanily members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Fanily. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Fanily and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share 1 or 2 on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, Fanily members. Bye.